get started, despite the fact that most people aren't here yet. Today, we're going to do an in-class exercise. I kind of suggested that last week. And so while we're waiting for people to show up, I'm going to go ahead and kind of review a part of what I want you to do. In our Moodle, under week 1, in the week 1 folder, there is the news writing critique sheet, which we have gone over. But part of your anyway, that's going to download for you. That's not the way I would normally do it. I kind of went along with somebody else here. But anyway, so you can open it up from there. So I just want to, what I'm going to have you do when other people get here is interview each other. And this will be part of your participation grade. So it's not a separate assignment because you're actually going to do it here in class. And we're going to pretty much take the whole day to do this. So anyway, what I'm going to want you to do, and let me put this on the board for other people. So what you're going to do, the first thing you're going to do is interview each other. Ideally, we'll break up into just one-on-one. If we come out uneven, if we don't have one-on-one possible, then somebody can interview me. And the last desperate resort. Once you've interviewed each other, I want you to then. I keep forgetting that even with this, I'm not being picked up by the video if I don't move over in front of it. Even over there, it won't pick up very well. So once you've interviewed each other, and I anticipate, well, I'd like to give you at least, say, 20 minutes each to interview. So a fairly lengthy interview. When you're done, you will, I have to step away. Let me maybe point this over this direction. Seems to be fairly directional. So you interview them, and then count complete direct quotes. I'll just say direct quotes. How many did you have? And put that at the top of the page, circle it. And then I want you to follow the instructions in our critique sheet. And I want you to write, take out a second sheet of paper so that it's a page sheet so that you can hand it in to me. I want you to write the first 3 paragraphs of the story about the person you interviewed. So that will be the other part of what we'll do in class today. We'll hand it in by the end of class. So again, interviewing another student, 20 minutes each. Count how many direct quotes, circle it, and then write the first 3 paragraphs of a story. So let's review again what the first 3 paragraphs should look like. Hopefully we've gone through that enough, but just to make sure you understand what I would expect in the first 3 paragraphs. First off, I'm not going to go through the whole critique sheet because I'm just trying to review the first part. Let me blow this up. And I'm going to have to move this so we can see it better. Maybe blow it a little bit more up. And we have to stop it and expand. So I would encourage you just go ahead and use the interview speech lead, which is demonstrated here and in other examples I've given you. So the demonstration is, in this case, this is the exception to type 1 indirect quote. What I've told you previously is that most type 1s, which are indirect, type 1 meaning the attributions at the beginning, and then it's not a direct quote, so there's no quote marks. So the typical indirect quote is type 1, attribution to the front. But in the lead, I expect it to be, first off, fairly short, and the attribution could be instead of type 2, I'd say it could be type 3 if you end up making it fairly long. If it's a fairly long indirect quote, then use type 3 and get your attribution closer to the front, not at the very front though. So again, a type 3 can be, like in this sentence here, the internet has totally changed the way professionals conduct modern marketing, says Chime Professor Ken Harvey. Okay, that's type 2. And so the attribution at the end is short enough that the reader's not going to get lost and not going to question, if you're trying to make up your own, express your own opinion or whatever. But if it were longer, then you could put, this is such a simple sentence, I'm not sure you can make a type 3 out of it. Technically, I guess you could say the internet, says Chime Professor Ken Harvey, has totally changed the way professionals conduct modern marketing. That would be a type 3. Again, not ideally, you would try to say a little bit more before you interrupted the flow with the attribution. So this is short enough that there's no excuse just not to do a type 2. But if it were a little bit longer, you felt like you had to put a little more information in, then you could do a type 3 and put in there. But you're trying to get the reader into the substance of the indirect quote just as quickly as possible. Because the theory is that who said it is not nearly as interesting as what the person said. When you get done interviewing each other, that's what the first thing you're going to be hunting for among all of your notes. What's the most interesting thing this person said to me? Now, in a sense, this is assessing not only your writing ability, but also your interviewing ability. If you don't ask good questions, you're not going to get anything interesting, and in which case you don't have a good lead. So you need to ask good questions in order to find a whammy. So your questions will lead you to a whammy, hopefully, and then that your whammy, your strongest part, your hook, whatever you want to call it, would be expressed in your speech interview lead that has been demonstrated in several documents, but here in the very first 1A, there is a demonstration of it again here. That does not mean in your final paper you have to use a speech interview lead, but it is a very simple lead. It's very easy to remember, and it's very appropriate for an interview-based story. So I would not be surprised if in fact, I would not be surprised if all of you end up using a speech interview lead for this type of a story. Now, once you become a professional, you start doing other types of writing that are not strictly speech interview type stories. Now things could turn around very quickly. If you're reporting on crime, and you have there's elements to the crime. You've asked a lot of your why and how questions about the crime. Now suddenly you may have a descriptive lead about how the crime took place. Now you're kind of maybe introducing a little bit of the suspense element of the story. And so you're describing what happened, and you don't, it's a different type of lead then. In the crash course, in that chapter 2 of the crash course, I think it is, it gives you lots of examples of different types of lead, and they're all appropriate at different times. But for one that is totally based on an interview, there's not really a better lead than speech interview lead, hardly ever. Now maybe you find something in that interview that would lend itself to a different type of lead. that might lend itself to a descriptive lead or something. That's possible. Like, for example, somebody that you're interviewing somebody and they kind of choke up about an experience in their childhood that really affected them. Well, now you might uh, be describing that event in their childhood that changed their life. And so that may become a descriptive lead. So it's possible in your interview you could end up with a different type of lead. But this is a very simple type of lead. And for interview-based leads like you're going to be doing for this class, it is very good. It's fine. So again, you should be keeping it fairly short. If it's in the range, like this lead here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 words. So if you're down around that area, then almost certainly it's going to be a type 2 lead with the attribution at the end, like this example. But it is possible. It says a lead can be 15 to 35 words. So as you get more towards 35 words, then if you're still going to make it a speech interview lead, then that's where you might go from type 2 to type 3 attribution, get the attribution a little bit closer to the front than 35 words. That's pretty long for speech interview lead. I don't know that I've ever had a speech interview lead that was 35 words long. That's more of a descriptive lead or something like that. So, but definitely if you felt compelled to do a 35-word speech interview lead, then go from type 2 to type 3. So you're splitting your indirect quote and getting your attribution closer to the front, but not at the start, not at the very front, not a type 1, but a type 3 would allow you to get it closer to the front. And still have enough of the quote to catch people's interest. Then your attribution, then finish the indirect quote. So after you've written your quote, your speech interview lead, then you would do your second paragraph, which to make it your complete lead. So your second paragraph would fill in some of the 5 W's of what you are talking about with this from your interview. Again, there's not an event, so there's not really the where and when isn't relevant probably in this, but there may be other elements like the student's major, the student's what year they are in the school, where they're from, that sort of stuff could end up in paragraph 2. And then paragraph 3 is your bridge into the rest of the story. And I would suggest you do it like I've explained and just go ahead and have a direct quote. So, and the direct quote could be similar content as your lead in paragraph 1. So paragraph 1, speech interview lead. Again, you don't have to do that, but that's what I'm envisioning. Paragraph 2 is giving me some more of the 5 W's. And then paragraph 3 would be the direct quote that you based your lead on, but now in their words with quote marks. So I just wanted to, while we were waiting for people to come, people are coming too late to class here. We need to be coming on time. I'm going to, if we're going to continue to be this late, I will probably I may even call the roll so that I know who's not here, and after a few minutes not count you as here. We need to be here in time. Okay, so for those who did come in late, I'm trying to give people as much time as possible to get here because they're going to screw the whole thing up by coming late. We're going to interview each other. You're going to team up, one-on-one interviews, 20 minutes per interview. So the 2 interviews would end up being 40 minutes. When you're done, you can take a few minutes to analyze your what in your notes. I want you to count the direct quotes that are sentence-long direct quotes and circle that at the top. So it might be whatever the number is, but to make my point, say say you have, 12 sentences of direct quote. You put that in a circle, and then you write the first 3 paragraphs of the story based on the interview that you just conducted. Okay, those that come in late will have to come talk to me, I guess, and get the directions. I will go ahead and pass the roll right now. I want you to go ahead and move it around quickly. Anybody that is later than how fast this can move around, that's their problem. Passing around also the previous sheet of paper with the makeup. I had to hand in the first 3 weeks, and this is part of week 3, the makeup class that we had to have. And so even though some of you have assigned it, some of you haven't, I told you to sign it once you watch those videos I assigned you. But in case they ask me to hand this in, I want you to go ahead and sign it today, regardless. Sign the lesson 5, even if you haven't done it yet. I can guarantee that there will be questions from those videos on the final exam. So if you don't watch the videos, you're going to lose points in the final exam anyway. So that's your punishment if you don't do it. So I think probably you will do it eventually. Okay. So I'll pass that around in just a second. I guess one last note. I believe Godzilla did send you a message about presentations and when you're scheduled, but as was pointed out by a group that came in this morning early, we're not meeting a week from today. That's a holiday. So any of you that are scheduled to present next Wednesday, will present on Thursday. So Godzilla will come, take the class on Thursday, and you will do so everything else should be okay. All the other, as far as we know anyway, they surprise us with the holidays every so often. But presuming that we don't have another holiday surprise, you will present on the dates that she's assigned you, except for this very first one. Instead of being next Wednesday, it'll be next Thursday. Okay? She is going to modify that and put it up, probably send you another message, but I told her I would announce it in class too. So there's no surprises here. And of course, you get an extra day to prepare, so you can't complain about that. I will, again, we have to make up the holiday, which, like I say, I think they should be putting these holidays on a calendar and make them up, like add another week at the end for all the makeup classes or something, instead of us having to figure out what's a good way to make up the class. But I will make up the class the same way I did last time. I will put some videos up for you to watch, and that will be your makeup. And again, I'll guarantee, like I am in this one, I'll go ahead and have you sign so that there's not, in case they gather this, I want your signature on it. And I said, like I said, your punishment will be you'll miss some questions on the final exam if you don't watch the videos, because I'm going to make sure that there are questions on the final exam about any of the assigned videos for makeup days. You can absolutely guarantee it. Take it to the bank. So the same was true for the last makeup, and it'll be true for the whatever makeups that I'm in charge of. I'll be putting questions on the final exam related to the videos you were to watch on a makeup day. So you can count on that next week too. Okay. Well, we will, so I'll pass this around. So again, sign for today. Today is lesson 9, but also go back and sign the makeup day, even if you haven't watched the videos yet, sign it anyway. As I said, you'll be punished enough for it if you don't actually do it, because you'll miss the questions. Okay, so we'll go ahead and break up in groups of 2 people, find another partner, and if we don't have enough partners, then the last person can come interview me. So take 20 minutes each. So right now it's we'll say it's starting at 11:25. So the first interview should be done at about quarter till 12. And then if you might take 5 minutes after you're done with your 20 minutes, take 5 minutes before you start the second interview. So the person taking the notes can finish the notes and the other person can think about questions. Because it's important that it be fresh in your mind when you take a look at your notes and maybe you did leave something out, but you can remember what was said so you can finish your notes before you change places and the other person starts interviewing. Okay, any questions on what we're going to do? If you came in too late to understand that, again, one last time, breaking up in two, you're interviewing each other, 20 minutes per interview, 5 minutes after the interview to finish the note taking. Then when you're done, so about 50 minutes from now, at about a quarter after 12, you should be done with all your interviews, and you will count how many complete sentence of direct quote you have, and circle that number at the top so I can see it. And then you'll write the first 3 paragraphs of a story about the person that you interviewed. So again, this not only tests your ability to write the first 3 paragraphs, but also tests your ability to ask good questions, because you need to find a whammy, you need to find something interesting about the person you're interviewing. It may be that you will find that you'll be interviewing the most boring person in the world. So that will affect your grade. But you need, as the interviewer, you need to ask some questions to figure out something interesting about that person. And in 20 minutes, hopefully, you will be capable of doing that. Okay, so split up in teams, and you can begin your interviews. When you are done, you can go on to writing those 3 paragraphs. Some of you seem to be done with your interviews, although you technically have another 5 or 6 minutes to complete your interviews and look at your notes and stuff. But when you're done with that, you can go ahead again. I want three paragraphs. The lead, so it's basically, what we. Some of you came in late. That's not good for you to do that. Not projecting. Well, anyway, I went through I threw some of it before some of you came to class, but again, write your lead paragraph, your complete lead, so your second paragraph finishing some of the 5 W's, and then the third paragraph would be a complete quote that relates somewhat to the lead. So that's basically your first 3 paragraphs, which could be as few as 3 sentences, 1 sentence per paragraph, or some of your paragraphs might be 2 sentences. Your lead paragraph should only be 1 sentence. Your paragraph 2 and 3 could be 2 sentences, but I would say no more than 2. You don't need more than 2.